Welcome back, guys, here on Birds 365. Appreciate Les Owen jumping in. Always good when we get a chance to talk with Les. Although his computer freezes up on him on more so than any other guest we get on, whatever the reason. I'm blaming the city of Haddonfield. I don't know if that's the case. Their Wi-Fi.
Haddon Township. Now, let's not blame Haddonfield. You know, those rich people.
Aren't those one and the same? Haddon Township, anything called Haddon, isn't it? Just one big
Haddon? You got Haddon Township, Haddon Heights, Haddonfield.
Okay.
Haddonfield's where all the Nick Siriannis of the world live. You know, that's very pricey.
Okay. So then if I'm in some way, shape, or form short-sighting one of the Haddon towns, I guess I need to apologize. No, screw you. It's all one and the same. Haddon is Haddon is Haddon is Haddon. All right, Johnny Mac, I ran this by Les, so I'll run it by you. I know which way you're leaning already because we've talked about this, and there has been changes, not necessarily in what the Eagles want to do, but the market is the market, and I do think that you have to factor in the market when you're projecting a potential move for the Eagles. Backup quarterbacks. Talk about a deal that I just didn't see coming. Jarrett Stidham getting $10 million yesterday. So did Andy Dalton, which at least I could understand. Andy Dalton came in, let us not forget, beat the Eagles. The Eagles only took 4 losses last year, one of which was to Andy Dalton in their own house. So Andy Dalton is what he is. He's a less.
He's also got a ton of starting experience. And,
exactly.
You know, he took the Bengals to the playoffs when they hadn't been there in like 2 decades for however many straight years. Now, they never won a game in the playoffs, which is why Marvin Lewis got fired. But at the time, that was pretty good for that organization. Now they're good because they have Joe Burrow. But, yeah, he's a solid backup quarterback, Andy Dalton.
And he got $10 million per my guy, Mike White, who, when he played for the Jets, he would play well, but he's another guy who can't stay on the field, seems to get hurt when given his few opportunities to actually start. He got a 2-year deal from the Dolphins to be their backup quarterback. There's a trickle-down effect from the starting quarterbacks to the backup quarterback. The Eagles had to tap into Gardner Minshew for 2 games last year. They didn't go well. Talk about those losses. One of those was to Andy Dalton with Gardner Minshew at the helm. But at least they had Gardner on the last year of his rookie deal, which means they had him for $1 million. They don't have a player like that now. They don't have a guy. And I agree with Les, and I'll ask you if you do too. The Eagles aren't going to have their backup quarterback be a 2023 draft pick, are they? Where are the Eagles going for the backup QB?
Yeah, it's going to be, you know, remember how they got Gardner Minshew. Don't forget the trade market. You know, they might evaluate somebody, a younger quarterback on his rookie deal and say, hey, we think this guy, we like this guy in the draft. Maybe they're out. You know, maybe it's Ian Book. You know, maybe they like Ian Book. I always say Nick Sirianni loves Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees recommended Ian Book. Who knows? Maybe they give him an opportunity. He does love Jacoby Brissett, but I'm with you, Nick. Nick loves Jacoby Brissett, and I think if he had, you know, if there was no budget in play, I think he would be the backup quarterback. But I think he might get priced out. Everybody loves Marcus Mariota. Do the deal, Jody. Maybe they can finally do the deal. I wouldn't go near Marcus Mariota, but that's me.
Yeah, no. See, I like Mariota. If he lands here,
I don't like him a little bit.
Both on the same contract, because one could get paid more than the other. But if they're both, let's say Mike White, $7 million, you'd rather have Brissett than.
Well, Nick Sirianni would rather have Brissett.
Right. I'm not asking about Nick Sirianni. Yeah. We get that. He's acknowledged that.
I'd rather have Jacoby Brissett because the head coach would want Jacoby Brissett. That's mainly why I would want Jacoby Brissett. But as far as
hold on. If you're an Eagle scout, would you scout to please the coach, or would you just scout to?
If you're a scout, you better damn well know what your coach wants. And then you find players your coach wants. And if he is that, you know, hell-bent on a backup. And by the way, Jacoby's a damn good backup quarterback. He's got starting experience. Again, we're talking about backup quarterback, not starting quarterback. I think people get too hung up in you got to play like Jalen Hurts. You got to play like Jalen Hurts. You got to put. We got to be able to run the RP. You ain't running the RPO in the zone read like you do with Jalen Hurts. You ain't doing it. It ain't going to be as successful. You can run it. You can do it. You can do the same things. Marcus Mariota isn't going to be. Oh, he plays like Jalen Hurts. No, he doesn't. He's an RPO quarterback. He can run his own read. Who gives a flying?
Yeah, but John, come on, wait. Aren't you the one who told me that the Eagles weren't going to get Chuck Clark because he just doesn't do the type of things that they want to do in their defense? Well, then why would you take on a quarterback and say, well, he can't do it as well as the starter, so we won't worry about how he actually performs within our system? Do they or don't they select players as per how they fit their system?
In the case of what you're talking about with Chuck Clark, it's they like coverage players at safety. I mean, they flashed that with Marcus Epps.
Don't they like RPO quarterbacks?
No, not really. And in fact, if you go back to how Nick Sirianni started this whole thing, it was 11 personnel, and he said it numerous times. Sometimes you don't know what you have until you have it. In other words, he came to the conclusion, hey, this guy can do some stuff that's pretty special. So they shifted their offense around what Jalen Hurts does well. He's more comfortable with Phillip Rivers. He's more comfortable with Jacoby Brissett. He's more that's his type of offense. He had to sort of reimagine things. So no, I don't think it's the same thing. The Eagles want to run the Vic Fangio scheme, which I don't like it either, but that's what they want to run. And to run that properly, to run that successfully, which they did last year, for people that don't know, you need coverage safeties. You don't need box safeties. Now, if you ask me personally, and I always use Malcolm Jenkins, like Malcolm Jenkins wouldn't be a fit for what they did last year defensively. But I'd rather have Malcolm Jenkins in his prime than C.J. Gardner-Johnson or Mark. Yeah, you're damn right. But, they want to run a different philosophy, a different scheme. And there's certain things that you have to do to be able to fit in that scheme. I saw it last year with Harrison Smith. I bring it up. He was older and probably going to get cut today. So, and hashtag no season. No, he's not coming here. He's one of the best box safeties I've ever seen. He goes all over the place. He can do so many different things. And then he's like a fish out of water in this stupid scheme. There's levels to it, but no, I'm not getting a backup quarterback to pretend he's Jalen Hurts. Leave that for the scout team. I want to get the best backup quarterback.
Yeah, no, I think that's a strength that Sirianni has, as you just mentioned. He didn't come in with an offensive philosophy that was RPO heavy, but he saw the talent he had. He knew Jalen was quarterback, and he said to himself, well, maybe we have to adjust to get the most out of the guy that we're kind of committed to take us forward. That's good coaching. That's a guy who's willing to take what his core beliefs are and tweak them and move and not just overturn them, but figure out a way to make it work. And I would hope they would do the same on the defense side of the ball. And you get a guy like Chuck Clark, you go, all right, maybe we need to tweak our fan belief on everything we do.
You have more confidence in them than I do defensively. I mean, they like that scheme. They like that philosophy.
What's the difference between offense and defense? If you're willing to make adjustments on offense, why would you not be willing to make adjustments on defense?
Well, they made adjustments on offense because, they had what turned out to be the near MVP of the league, second in MVP voting. There's a big difference between Jalen Hurts and Chuck Clark. Nothing against Chuck Clark. Chuck Clark's a good above average NFL safety. You're not changing your philosophy for Chuck Clark. You change your philosophy if you have Khalil Mack in his prime when he was Defensive Player of the Year. If you have T.J. Watt in his prime, Defensive Player, he is in his prime, Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, maybe then, the Eagles shifted some things around for Hassan Reddick, who had a great season. Players like that. You don't shift around for players like Chuck Clark. You shift around for players like Jalen Hurts and what Jalen Hurts turned out to be. And by the way, I didn't know that. And the Eagles didn't know that. And nobody knowed it, at least nobody who's honest. So I think there's a big difference between those two examples. And Marcus Mariota is lesser than Chuck Clark. Like, I don't care. I don't care about Marcus Mariota. To be fair, backup quarterback's backup quarterback. But the head coach is comfortable with Jacoby Brissett. He loves Jacoby Brissett. He's got experience with Jacoby Brissett. If money were no object, and it is, I would try to get Jacoby Brissett.
We'll see. We'll see where the money goes. I'm just noting the fact that the money is better than I thought it was going to be. Backup quarterbacks are getting paid these days. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. Up next, we got a good buddy we haven't had on in months. He's kind of busy. Covers everything, everywhere. You name it, he's there.
Got to get to the airport, too, all the time.
Of course. He's Johnny Airport. And Johnny Happy. And Johnny Sunshine. And he's John Clark. And he's joining us next